Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance and watched the impossible happen. The stars above Earth began to vanish one by one, replaced by massive dark shapes that blocked out the light. Each alien ship was the size of a city. There were hundreds of them. "Sir, we're getting a transmission," said Lieutenant Danny Brooks from the communications station. His voice stayed calm, but his hands shook as he worked the controls. Jake nodded. "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life. A tall, pale creature with 4 arms and glowing red eyes stared back at them. When it spoke, the translation. Software turned its words into perfect English. "I am Fleet Commander Vex of the Zephyrian Empire. Your world now belongs to us. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. Lay down all weapons. Prepare your people for transport to work. Camps. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your planet." The alien's red eyes seemed to burn through the screen. "We have conquered 800 worlds. We have turned entire star systems to dust. Your primitive weapons cannot harm us. Your small ships are toys to us. Submit now, or watch your world burn." The transmission ended. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of the ship's engines. Jake looked around at his crew. These were Earth's best officers, trained for this exact moment. But nothing could really prepare someone for an alien invasion. "Get me a direct line to Earth Command," Jake said. Within minutes, he was connected to the emergency council meeting happening far below on Earth's surface. President Lucas Hayes appeared on the screen, sitting at a long table surrounded by Earth's military leaders. "Admiral Morrison," the president said, "I assume you heard their demands." "Yes, sir. What are your orders?" President Hayes smiled. It was not the smile Jake expected. "We're going to respond to their ultimatum in exactly 4 hours. I want you to monitor their fleet until then. Do not engage unless they fire first." "Sir, with respect, they have us outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Our entire fleet couldn't scratch their paint." "Admiral," the president said, and his smile grew wider. "Trust me on this one?" The connection ended, leaving Jake staring at a blank screen. Down on Earth, the emergency council meeting was unlike anything in human history. The leaders of every nation sat together in one room. Military generals, scientists, and politicians all focused on the same problem. General Amy Rodriguez stood up. She commanded Earth's combined military forces. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment we've been preparing for our entire lives. Our parents prepared for it. Our grandparents prepared for it. Today, we find out if we were ready." Dr. Nathan Brooks raised his hand. He led Earth's advanced weapons research. The deep space monitors picked up their ships 3 days ago. We've been studying their technology since they entered our solar system. Preliminary analysis shows they're using fusion drives and particle beam weapons. Advanced, but not beyond our understanding. "What about their defenses?" asked Captain Lisa Turner. "Energy shields, probably quantum-based. Their hull materials appear to be some kind of crystalline metal composite, strong, but not impossible to penetrate." Ambassador Kira Bennett spoke up from her seat at the table. "The question is, do we try to negotiate? Some alien species might be reasonable." General Rodriguez laughed. It was a short, sharp sound. "Did you hear their message? Work camps, complete destruction. These aren't the kind of aliens who want to talk." President Hayes stood up. "I've made my decision. Dr. Brooks, activate Protocol 7. Dr. Brooks grinned. "Finally," General Rodriguez, "put all forces on condition red. But I want them ready. To fight, not ready to run." "Yes, sir." Ambassador Bennett, prepare our response message. I want it broadcast on all frequencies in 4 hours. What should the message say, sir? President Hayes looked around the room. Every face showed the same expression. Not fear, not panic. Something that looked almost like excitement. "Tell them we said no." The next 4 hours passed quickly. Around The world military bases came alive with activity. Soldiers checked their weapons. Pilots ran to their fighters. Ships left their ports and headed for deep ocean positions. But something strange was happening. Instead of the panic everyone expected, there was an odd sense of celebration in the air. People gathered in the streets to look up at the alien ships. They pointed and took pictures. Some even waved. News crews broadcast live from major cities. The reporters seemed confused by what they were seeing. "This is incredible," said one news anchor. "We're looking at the largest invasion force in human history, and people are laughing?" In bars and restaurants around the world, humans watched the alien ships and made jokes. "Took them long enough to find us," said one man in New York. "I was getting bored waiting for them," said a woman in London. The aliens monitored human communications, trying to understand their enemy. What they heard made no sense. "Should we be scared?" asked one human on a recorded phone call. "Why? We've been ready for this since before we were born." "Think they're tough?" "Probably. Should be fun finding out." Fleet Commander Vex studied the reports from his intelligence officers. In 1,000 campaigns, he had never seen anything like this. When the Zephyrian Empire arrived at a world, people ran. They hid. They begged. They tried to escape to other planets. Humans were taking pictures. "Commander," said one of his officers, "we're receiving a response to our ultimatum. Put it through." The human president appeared on the screen. He sat behind a simple wooden desk with a small flag next to him. He looked directly into the camera and spoke in a calm, clear voice. "To the Zephyrian Empire, we have received your ultimatum. We have considered your demands. Our answer is no. We will not surrender. We will not submit. We will not run. If you want Earth, you'll have to take it. Good luck with that." The transmission ended. Fleet Commander Vex stared at the blank screen for a long moment. In the background, his officers whispered to each other in confusion. "Sir?" asked his second-in-command. "What are your orders?" Vex looked out at the small, blue planet below them. Such a tiny world, such weak creatures. Yet something about their response bothered him. "Begin the attack," he said. "But stay alert. I don't like this." The alien fleet hung in space above Earth like a dark cloud. For 12 hours, they waited. Fleet Commander Vex expected the humans to change their minds. Every species did, once they had time to think about what was coming. But the humans were not doing what other species did. Captain Ryan Kelly stood in the main command center deep under Colorado's Rocky Mountains. Around him, hundreds of officers worked at computer stations. The room buzzed with activity, but not the kind of frantic panic the aliens expected to see. "Status report," Ryan said. "All defensive systems are online and ready," replied Colonel Grace Martinez. "Orbital platforms 1 through 47 are powered up and waiting for orders." "What about the civilian evacuations?" Grace smiled. "That's the interesting part, sir. We sent out evacuation orders to all major cities. Less than 2% of the population has left their homes. They're refusing to evacuate? No, sir, they're volunteering to fight." Ryan shook his head. "How many volunteers?" "Last count was over 200 million people worldwide. We're having to turn people away." Above them, the Zephyrian monitoring stations intercepted human communications. The intelligence officers brought their reports to Fleet Commander Vex. "Sir, we're picking up strange activity on the planet's surface." "What kind of activity?" "It appears to be preparations for a party." Vex's 4 eyes narrowed. "Explain." "Multiple human cities are setting up what they call invasion watch parties. Large groups of humans are gathering in open areas with food and drinks. They appear to be celebrating." "Celebrating what?" "Our arrival, sir." Vex studied the reports. This made no sense. "What about their military?" "Active on all fronts." "But, sir, their behavior is unlike anything we've seen. Their soldiers are singing." Dr. Nathan Brooks walked through the underground research facility that most humans didn't know existed. For 50 years, Earth's best scientists had worked, in secret preparing for this day. "How long until the main systems are online?" he asked his assistant, Dr. Sophie Green. 15 minutes for the Continental Defense Grid. The orbital weapons are already in position. What about Project Lighthouse? Sophie grinned. Ready to go. The aliens have no idea what they're looking at. Above ground, the objects the aliens thought were simple communication satellites began to move. Slowly, quietly, they repositioned themselves around the alien fleet. The Zephyrians noticed the movement but dismissed it. What could small human satellites do against their massive warships? Lieutenant Commander Emma Davis sat in the cockpit of her fighter, hidden in an underground hangar beneath what looked like a simple farm. Around her, 50 other pilots waited for orders. "Dragon Squadron, this is command," came the voice through her radio. "Prepare for launch sequence. Copy, command. Dragon Squadron ready? Remember, people, we've trained for this our whole lives. Our parents trained for this. Today we find out if all that training was worth it." Emma checked her weapons systems. Her fighter didn't look like much compared to the massive alien ships above, but appearances could be fooling. The Zephyrians were growing impatient. Fleet Commander Vex had given the humans 72 hours to surrender. 24 hours had passed, and the humans seemed to be ignoring them completely. "Sir," said his communications officer, "we're receiving thousands of messages from the planet's surface." "Surrender requests." "No, sir. They appear to be insults." "Insults?" "Yes, sir. The humans are sending us messages telling us we're ugly, that our ships look stupid, and that we should go home to our mothers." Vex felt a growing sense of unease. This was not how invasions were supposed to go. "Sir," called another officer, "we're detecting energy signatures from the planet's surface." "What kind of energy?" "Unknown, sir, but it's big, very big." Deep in the Pacific Ocean, Commander Helen Parker stood on the bridge of a submarine that officially didn't exist. Around her, similar submarines rose from hidden underwater bases around the world. "All boats, this is Poseidon Actual, begin surface procedures." One by one, submarines broke the surface of Earth's oceans. But these weren't ordinary submarines. As they rose, their hulls began to change, unfolding into something much larger. Something that looked more like spaceships than underwater vessels. The aliens finally noticed. "Sir, multiple contacts rising from the planet's ocean surfaces. Count is, sir, I'm reading over 300 vessels." "Size?" "Large, sir. Each one is approximately 2 kilometers long." Vex stared at the tactical display. "That's impossible. Our intelligence report said the humans had no space-capable military vessels." "Sir, it appears our intelligence was wrong." Captain Pete Williams stood in the command center of the hidden moon base that Earth had been building for 30 years. Through the observation windows, he could see the alien fleet in the distance. "Lunar Base Alpha to Earth Command," he said into his radio. "We are in position and ready to begin operations." "Copy, Alpha. You are cleared for Phase 2. Pete turned to his crew. "Gentlemen and ladies, it's time to show our guests that Earth has more friends than they know about." The weapons that rose from the moon's surface weren't built by humans alone. They were a combination of human engineering and technology from 3 other species that the galaxy thought were extinct. The Zephyrians had made a mistake 20 years ago. When they destroyed the homeworlds of the Kalari, the Vrex, and the Torthan species, they thought they had killed everyone. They were wrong. A few survivors had escaped, and they had found their way to Earth. Humans had done something no other species had ever tried. Instead of fearing the refugees, they had welcomed them. Instead of seeing them as competition, they had seen them as teachers. And in return, the refugees had shared their knowledge of Zephyrian weaknesses. "Sir," the Zephyrian sensor officer's voice was now shaking. "I'm reading massive energy buildups from multiple locations. The moon, the asteroid belt, and, sir, there are ships hiding behind the planet's natural satellite." "How many ships?" I don't know, sir. They were completely hidden until now. They're using some kind of stealth technology we've never seen before. Fleet Commander Vex looked at the tactical display and felt something he hadn't experienced in over 100 campaigns. Doubt. "Open a channel to the human planet," he ordered. The same human president appeared on the screen, still sitting behind his simple wooden desk. "You have hidden weapons," Vex said. "You have been preparing for our arrival." The human smiled. "We've been preparing for someone like you our entire history. We just weren't sure when you'd show up. You cannot defeat us. We are the Zephyrian Empire. We have conquered 800 worlds, and we've spent 50 years learning from the survivors of those 800 worlds. They told us all about you, your tactics, your weaknesses, your complete inability to understand what you're fighting." Vex felt his confidence wavering. "What do you mean? You've been conquering people who had no choice but to fight alone. We're not alone. We're never alone. That's the difference between you and us." The transmission ended, leaving Vex staring at a tactical display that showed his fleet surrounded by an enemy he had completely underestimated. "Sir," his second-in-command said quietly, "perhaps we should reconsider our approach." Vex looked at the readings one more time. Then he made the decision that would change everything. "All ships, prepare for immediate attack. Target the largest. Human installations first. Show them what happens when someone refuses the Zephyrian Empire." Fleet Commander Vex pointed at the tactical display. "Target the human city called New York. Full-power city killer beam. Show them what happens to species that refuse us." The massive Zephyrian flagship charged its main weapon. The beam that had turned entire planets to glass began to glow with deadly energy. "Firing in 10 seconds, reported the weapons officer. Down in New York City, 8 million people looked up at the sky. They could see the alien ship beginning to glow. They knew what was coming. But instead of running, they did something that confused every alien monitoring station. They cheered. "Here it comes!" shouted someone in Times Square. "About time!" yelled another. Major Steve Carson stood on a rooftop in Manhattan, watching the alien weapon charge up. He spoke into his radio with calm confidence. "All units, this is Fortress Actual. Prepare for contact in 5 seconds." The Zephyrian beam fired. A column of pure energy that could melt mountains shot down toward the city. It struck the buildings and streets with enough force to vaporize everything for miles around. And absolutely nothing happened. The beam hit an invisible barrier, 50 feet above the tallest buildings and spread out like water hitting glass. The energy that should have killed millions simply vanished into the air. "What happened?" Vex demanded. "Sir, the beam appears to have been absorbed by some kind of defensive field." "That's impossible. Our city killer beam can penetrate any known defense. Sir, it appears their defenses are not known to us." Down in the hidden command center, Dr. Nathan Brooks watched the energy readings with satisfaction. "Perfect absorption," he reported. "The quantum field generators are working exactly as designed." "How much of their energy did we capture?" asked Colonel Grace Martinez. "All of it. We just gained enough power to run our entire continental defense grid for 6 months." On the surface, the people of New York looked up at the invisible barrier that had saved their lives and started clapping. Some of them took pictures, others just laughed. "Is that the best you can do?" someone shouted at the sky. Vex stared at his instruments in disbelief. "Fire again! Full power!" "Sir, that was full power." "Then fire everything we have at that city." 5 more Zephyrian ships joined the attack, beams that could crack planets, all focused on New York. The energy release was enough to be seen from space, and once again it all simply disappeared into the invisible shields. "Sir," the Zephyrian sensor officer said quietly, "I'm reading massive energy spikes from multiple locations on the planet's surface." "What kind of spikes?" "They appear to be weapons, sir. Very large weapons." Captain Pete Williams stood on the command deck of Lunar Base Alpha and smiled as he watched the alien fleet waste their energy on Earth's shields. "Looks like they're done shooting," he said. "Our turn. All stations, prepare to return fire." What the Zephyrians had thought were communication satellites suddenly revealed their true purpose. Each small device began to unfold, growing larger and more complex. Within seconds, the aliens found themselves surrounded by hundreds of weapons platforms. "Impossible," Vex whispered. "We scanned those objects. They were just simple satellites." "Sir, they appear to have been using some kind of disguising technology." The first human weapon fired. It wasn't a beam like the Zephyrian guns. It was something much more creative. A missile that seemed to think for itself, dodging around the alien ship's defenses and striking exactly where their shields were weakest. The Zephyrian cruiser exploded in a ball of fire. "Return fire!" Vex screamed. But the human weapons platforms were already moving, shifting positions faster than the aliens could target them. More missiles launched, each one finding a different weakness in the Zephyrian defenses. Lieutenant Commander Emma Davis received the signal she had been waiting for her entire life. "Dragon Squadron, this is command. You are cleared for launch. Show them what Earth pilots can do." "Copy, command. Dragon Squadron launching." Around the world, what looked like ordinary farms and forests suddenly opened up. Hidden hangar doors revealed underground air bases that had been waiting for this moment. Hundreds of fighters rose into the sky, but these weren't ordinary fighters. They moved with speed and agility that made the Zephyrian ships look clumsy. They flew patterns that seemed impossible, turning and twisting in ways that should have killed their pilots. "Sir, we're being attacked by small fighters," reported a Zephyrian ship captain. "Destroy them." "We're trying, sir. They're too fast." "And their weapons?" "Sir, they're cutting right through our armor." Emma dove her fighter between two alien cruisers, her weapons carving glowing lines across their hulls. Behind her, the rest of Dragon Squadron followed, each pilot flying with the skill that came from a lifetime of training for this exact battle. "Dragon 2 to Dragon Lead," came a voice over her radio. "These guys are slower than our training dummies." "Copy, Dragon 2. Try not to make it look too easy." The space battle that the Zephyrians expected to be a simple conquest was turning into a nightmare. Human weapons were hitting them from directions they hadn't even known were possible. Their sensors couldn't track the small fighters that darted between their ships like angry insects. But the worst part was the humans themselves. "Sir, we're intercepting human communications." "What are they saying?" "They appear to be having fun, sir." The radio chatter from the human pilots was unlike anything the aliens had ever heard in battle. "Nice shot, Lisa." "Thanks, Danny. Hey, watch this trick I learned in training. Show off. Is anyone keeping score? I think I'm winning." Vex couldn't believe what he was hearing. These humans were treating the battle like a game. Major Steve Carson led the first boarding action in human history. His team used small ships to land on the hull of a Zephyrian cruiser, then cut their way inside. The aliens inside the ship had trained for battle against other species that fought like them. They had never fought against humans. Steve's team moved through the alien ship using tactics that made no sense. They split up when they should have stayed together. They attacked from above when they should have attacked from the sides. They used weapons in combinations that no military academy had ever taught. "Sir, we're being boarded," reported a Zephyrian captain. "How many troops?" "Only 12, sir." 12. Send 100 soldiers to stop them." "Sir, we sent 100 soldiers. The humans defeated them." "How?" "We don't know, sir. They fight like no species we've ever encountered." Steve's team reached the bridge of the alien ship in less than an hour. The Zephyrian captain stared at the humans in shock. "How did you get past our defenses?" Steve grinned. "You trained to fight aliens. We trained to fight everything." Commander Helen Parker surfaced her submarine-turned spaceship in the middle of the alien fleet. The Zephyrians watched in confusion as more human vessels rose from Earth's oceans. "Sir, the human water vessels are changing shape." "Into what?" "They appear to be turning into spaceships, sir. Helen's ship completed its transformation and immediately opened fire on the nearest Zephyrian vessel. The weapons it used weren't just human technology. They were a combination of human engineering and alien science from the 3 species that Earth had rescued. All ships. This is Poseidon Actual. Welcome to Earth. Hope you enjoyed your stay because it's time to leave. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it ended, half the Zephyrian fleet was destroyed or captured. The other half was trying to escape. But the human ships were faster. Vex sat on his damaged bridge and tried to understand what had happened. His mighty fleet, the terror of 800 worlds, had been defeated by a species that treated war like entertainment. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we're receiving a message from the human planet." The same president appeared on the screen. But now he wasn't sitting behind a desk. He was standing on the bridge of a human warship, looking out at the battle. "Commander Vex," the human said, "I believe you wanted to discuss surrender terms." Vex stared at him. "You're asking us to surrender?" "I'm not asking," the president replied. "I'm telling you. You have 1 hour to power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any ship that tries to leave this system will be destroyed." "This is impossible. We are the Zephyrian Empire." "No," the president said calmly. "You were the Zephyrian Empire. Now you're prisoners of war, and we have some friends of yours who would like to have a word with you." The screen flickered, and 3 new faces appeared. Aliens that Vex recognized, but thought were dead. "Hello, Vex," said the Kalari representative. "Surprise. We survived." "We all survived," added the Vex delegate. "And we've been waiting 20 years for this conversation." The third alien, a Torthan, smiled with what humans had learned was the equivalent of a very unpleasant expression. "The humans taught us something interesting. They taught us about justice." Vex looked around his ruined bridge. His officers stared at their instruments in defeat. Outside, human ships surrounded the remnants of his fleet. For the first time in his career, Fleet Commander Vex of the Zephyrian Empire prepared to surrender. Fleet Commander Vex sat in chains aboard the human flagship UES Defiance. Around him, what remained of his bridge crew waited under guard. The humans had been surprisingly gentle captors, but Vex could see the determination in their eyes. Admiral Jake Morrison walked into the holding area. "Commander Vex, we need to talk." "I will tell you nothing," Vex replied. Jake smiled. "You don't need to tell us anything. We already know everything we need to know about your empire. Our friends here made sure of that." 3 figures stepped into the room. The Kalari, Vrex, and Torthan survivors that Earth had been hiding for 20 years. Vex's eyes widened as he recognized them. "Jorak," he said to the Kalari, "I watched your planet burn." "You watched my home burn," Jorak replied, calmly. "But you didn't watch close enough. 3 million of my people escaped in hidden ships. The humans found us drifting in space and brought us here." The Vrex representative, Zara, stepped forward. 5 million of my people survived in underground shelters. When the humans made contact, we thought it was another trick. But they proved they were different." The Torthan, KL, nodded. 2 million of us lived through your attack. We've spent 20 years on Earth, learning about these humans, learning about hope." Admiral Morrison gestured to chairs around a table. "Please, sit. All of you. We have a lot to discuss." Vex remained standing. "I will not negotiate with terrorists." "Terrorists?" Jake laughed. "Commander, you just tried to conquer a planet full of people who never did anything to you. You threatened to put our entire population in work camps. Who exactly is the terrorist here?" Dr. Nathan Brooks entered the room carrying a portable computer. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from across the galaxy." "It's starting." "What's starting?" Vex demanded. Jake turned the computer screen toward him. On it, Vex could see tactical displays from dozens of star systems. Everywhere the same thing was happening. Planets that had been under Zephyrian control. for decades were rising in rebellion. How is this possible? Vex whispered. Simple, said Dr. Sophie Green as she joined them. For the past 5 years, we've been broadcasting the truth about Earth to every world in your empire. We told them that humanity was preparing to fight back. We told them they weren't alone. Jorak leaned forward. We gave the humans complete intelligence about every Zephyrian military installation, every weakness in your defenses, every planet where rebellion was most likely to succeed. Zara nodded. The humans didn't just prepare to defend Earth, they prepared to liberate everyone. On the screen, Vex watched as planet after planet declared independence from the Zephyrian Empire. Rebellions that had been planned for years were all beginning at once. This was coordinated, he realized. Of course it was coordinated, Jake said. Did you really think we would fight a defensive war? Earth doesn't just protect itself. Earth protects everyone who needs protecting. Captain Lisa Turner's voice came over the ship's communication system. Admiral Morrison to the bridge, please. We're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command. Jake looked at Vex. Come with us. You need to see this. They made their way to the bridge where President Hayes was waiting on the main screen. Behind him stood representatives from every nation on Earth, and beside them were leaders from the 3 refugee species. Admiral Morrison, the president said, I hope our guest is comfortable. He's learning some interesting things about the galaxy, sir. Good. Commander Vex, I want you to understand what's happening. Your empire is falling apart. But this isn't just revenge. This is justice. Vex stared at the screen. You cannot hold an empire together through rebellion. It's impossible. You're right, the president agreed. We can't hold an empire together. That's why we're not building an empire. We're building something much better. The screen split to show feeds from 12 different worlds. On each one, humans were working alongside alien populations to rebuild what the Zephyrians had destroyed. We're calling it the Galactic Liberation Alliance, the president continued. Every species that joins does so voluntarily. Every world that wants help gets it. Every person who needs protection receives it. Commander Helen Parker spoke from her position at a tactical station. Sir, we're receiving surrender requests from Zephyrian forces on 47 worlds. They're asking for terms. What terms are we offering? Vex asked. Jake looked at him seriously. The same terms we'd want if someone conquered us. Fair trials for war criminals. Reintegration programs for ordinary soldiers. Freedom for everyone who wants it. You're not going to execute us? Commander, said Jorak, these humans taught us something we had forgotten. They taught us that revenge and justice are not the same thing. Zara nodded. The humans could have used our knowledge to build weapons of mass destruction. Instead, they used it to build hope. Kyle added, they could have trained us to hate the way you taught your soldiers to hate. Instead, they taught us to protect. Dr. Brooks brought up a new display. Commander Vex, I want to show you something. This is a map of your empire 3 days ago. The screen showed hundreds of star systems under Zephyrian control. And this is the same map now. More than half the systems were marked with new symbols. Free worlds, independent governments, allied territories. Your empire is finished, Dr. Brooks said. But here's what we're offering instead. The map changed. Again, showing trade routes between free worlds, defense pacts between allied species, and research agreements between different populations. This is what the galaxy looks like when people choose to work together instead of being forced to serve one empire. Vex studied the display. This is impossible. Different species cannot cooperate on this scale. There's too much competition for resources. Commander, Jake said gently, that's what we thought too until we met our friends here. Turns out there's plenty of everything to go around if people share instead of hoard. A new voice came over the communication system. UES Defiance, this is Captain Alex Turner aboard the Liberation ship Friendship. We've just received word from the Zephyrian homeworld. Go ahead, Captain Turner. Sir, the Emperor is requesting direct negotiations with Earth Command. He's asking for a complete ceasefire and immediate peace talks. Vex's head snapped up. The Emperor never negotiates. He conquers or he destroys. Well, Jake said. Apparently he's learning that sometimes there's a third option. President Hayes reappeared on the main screen. Commander Vex, your Emperor, has agreed to meet with our representatives on neutral ground. We're hoping you might be willing to help facilitate those discussions. Why would I help you? Because, said Jorak, this is your chance to help build something better than what you had before. Zara stepped forward. The humans taught us that enemies can become friends, conquerors can become protectors, empires can become alliances. Kyle nodded. The question is, do you want to be part of the solution, or do you want to be part of the past? Vex looked around the bridge at the humans and aliens working together. He saw no hatred in their eyes, despite everything his people had done. He saw no desire for revenge, despite the suffering they had endured. What exactly are you proposing? He asked. Jake smiled. We're proposing that you help us contact every remaining Zephyrian commander and offer them the same choice we're offering. You. Join the Alliance as equals, help rebuild what was destroyed, and work together to make sure nothing like the old Empire ever happens again. And if they refuse, then they'll be stopped, Jake said simply. But we'd rather convince them than defeat them. Vex was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he looked up at the president on the screen. If I help you, what guarantee do I have? That my people won't be enslaved? Commander, the president said, the same guarantee we gave to everyone else. Freedom, dignity, a voice in their own future, and a chance to help build something better than what came before. Vex looked at the tactical display one more time. His empire was gone. The question now was, what would replace it? I'll need to speak with my officers, he said. Of course. Take all the time you need. But while you're deciding, watch what happens when people choose hope over fear. The screen showed images from the liberated worlds. Humans working alongside aliens to rebuild destroyed cities. Former enemies sharing technology and resources. Children from different species playing together in schools that had been built on the ruins of military bases. For the first time in his military career, Fleet Commander Vex began to wonder if there might be something better than conquest. 6 months later, Fleet Commander Vex stood on the observation deck of the space station that orbited Earth. Through the transparent walls, he could see ships from dozens of different worlds docking and departing. Humans, Kalari, Vrex, Torthan, and even former Zephyrians worked together loading supplies for the reconstruction efforts. Still hard to believe, isn't it? Asked Admiral Jake Morrison as he joined Vex at the viewing window. Every day, Vex replied. 6 months ago, I commanded a fleet that could destroy planets. Now I'm helping coordinate relief supplies. Jake smiled. How does it feel? Vex considered the question. Different. Good different, I think. Below them, Earth continued its transformation into the center of something the galaxy had never seen before. The Galactic Liberation Alliance now included over 300 worlds, all of them voluntary members, all of them working together. Admiral Morrison, came a voice over the communication system, you're needed in Conference Room 7. The Zephyrian Emperor has arrived for the final negotiations. Jake looked at Vex. Ready for this? As ready as anyone can be to meet their former emperor as an equal. They made their way through corridors filled with beings from across the galaxy. The space station had become a symbol of what cooperation could accomplish. Built in just 6 months using technology and labor from 50 different worlds, it was larger and more advanced than anything the old Zephyrian Empire had ever constructed. Conference Room 7 was packed. President Hayes sat at the head of a round table, surrounded by representatives from every member world of the Alliance. At the far end sat the former Zephyrian Emperor, flanked by advisors who had once commanded star fleets and now helped coordinate peaceful transitions of power. Your Majesty, President Hayes said as Jake and Vex entered. I believe you know Commander Vex. The Emperor looked older than Vex remembered, the weight of watching his empire transform into something completely different had changed him. Vex, the Emperor said simply. Your Majesty, Vex replied, then caught himself. I mean, Citizen Zeroth. The Emperor smiled slightly. Citizen Zeroth will do fine. I'm still getting used to it myself. Jorak leaned forward from his position at the table. If we're all ready, let's begin the final session. Dr. Nathan Brooks activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy as it existed now. Instead of the solid blocks of Imperial control that had dominated space for centuries, the map showed a network of interconnected free worlds. The transformation is essentially complete, Dr. Brooks reported. The last holdout systems have agreed to join the Alliance. Total casualties from the 6-month transition, less than 10,000 across the entire galaxy. General Amy Rodriguez nodded approvingly. Compare that to the millions who died during the average Zephyrian conquest. The difference, said Dr. Sophie Green, is that we offered people a choice instead of demanding submission. The former emperor looked at the display. In my reign, we conquered 800 worlds through force. The Alliance has liberated over 3,000 worlds through cooperation. How is this possible? Captain Lisa Turner answered from her seat. Because people want to be free. They want to help each other. They want to build something better. The old empire never gave them that chance. Ambassador Kira Bennett stood up. Which brings us to today's final business. The formal dissolution of the Zephyrian Empire and the complete integration of all former imperial territories into the Alliance. She placed a document on the table in front of the former emperor. This makes it official. Zeroth picked up the document and read it carefully. It was written in the languages of every species in the Alliance. At the bottom were signature lines for every world leader. By signing this, he said, I formally end 1,000 years of imperial rule. And begin something new, President Hayes added. Something better. Zeroth looked around the table at representatives from species his empire had conquered, enslaved, and nearly destroyed. All of them were looking at him with expectation, but not hatred. I spent my life believing that strength came from control, he said slowly. That peace came from conquest. That order came from fear. He picked up the signing. Pen. The humans taught me that real strength comes from cooperation. Real peace comes from justice. Real order comes from freedom. He signed the document with a firm hand. The room erupted in applause. Beings from across the galaxy stood and cheered as the last empire in their corner of the universe officially ended. But the celebration was interrupted by an urgent communication from the Deep Space Monitoring Stations. All stations, this is Deep Space Monitor Alpha, came the voice over the communication system. We're detecting massive ship movements from beyond the galactic rim, unknown vessels approaching from the direction of the Andromeda Galaxy. The room fell silent. President Hayes activated his personal communicator. Deep Space Alpha, this is Earth Command. How many ships? Sir, we're reading thousands, maybe tens of thousands. They're using technology we don't recognize. Jake looked at Vex, then at the former emperor. Think we've got another empire looking for conquest? Zeroth stood up slowly. If they are, they're going to get the same surprise we did. Jorak activated his own communicator. Kalari Defense Command, prepare all fleets for possible contact with unknown vessels. Zara did the same. Vrex Military, activate Protocol 7. All ships to ready status. Kyle nodded. Torthan forces, assume defensive positions around Alliance worlds. President Hayes smiled as he watched former enemies coordinate their defenses without a moment's hesitation. Deep Space Alpha, this is Earth Command. Broadcast the standard greeting on all frequencies. Let them know they're entering Alliance space. Copy, Earth Command. broadcasting now. The message that went out to the approaching fleet was simple. Welcome to Alliance Space. We are a coalition of free worlds dedicated to peace, cooperation, and mutual defense. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. The response came back within minutes. Alliance vessels, this is the Andromedan Conquest Fleet. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed. Resistance is futile. The room was quiet for a moment. Then someone started laughing. Within seconds, the entire conference room was filled, with laughter from dozens of different species. Did they just say resistance is futile? Asked Commander Helen Parker. I think they did, replied Captain Pete Williams. President Hayes wiped tears of laughter from his eyes. Do they have any idea what they just said to a galaxy full of people who specialize in impossible resistance? The former Emperor Zeroth looked around the room at the representatives of the Alliance. A year ago, these beings had been his subjects, or his enemies. Now they were preparing to stand together against a new threat. Mr. President, he said, I believe the Andromedans are about to learn the same lesson we learned. What lesson is that? That when you threaten people who have learned to work together, you're not fighting separate worlds anymore. You're fighting all of them at once. Jake activated the communication system. All Alliance fleets, this is Admiral Morrison. Prepare for Operation Welcome Wagon. Across the galaxy, ships from 300 worlds began moving toward the edge of Alliance space. Former Zephyrian vessels flew alongside human ships. Kalari fighters formed up with Vrex cruisers. Torthan battleships coordinated with vessels from species that had been enemies just months before. Captain Alex Turner's voice came over the communication system from his position at the edge of the solar system. Earth Command, this is Captain Turner aboard the ANS Hope. The Andromedan fleet is demanding our surrender. What did you tell them, Captain? I told them the same thing we told the Zephyrians, sir. We said no. President Hayes looked around the conference room one more time. Every representative was smiling. Captain Turner, please send the Andromedans our standard response to conquest threats. Copy, Earth Command. Transmitting now. The message that reached the Andromedan fleet was broadcast from every Alliance world simultaneously. To the Andromedan. Conquest Fleet, we are the Galactic Liberation Alliance. We don't surrender. We don't submit. We don't run. We protect each other. We defend freedom, and we stand together against anyone who threatens peace. If you want to conquer us, you'll have to go through all of us. And we should warn you, the last empire that tried this got turned into one of our greatest allies. We're hoping you'll be smart enough to choose cooperation over conquest. But if not, we're ready for you. Welcome to the galaxy. Try not to make the same mistake the last guys made. The transmission ended. In the conference room, former enemies sat together planning the defense of their shared freedom. 6 months ago, the Zephyrian Empire had threatened Earth and humanity, had laughed. Now the Andromedan Empire was threatening the Alliance, and an entire galaxy was laughing together, and somewhere in the depths of space, the approaching conquest fleet was about to learn that the laughter of free people was the most dangerous sound in the universe.